little Spanish flea. I did the Herb Alpert. Do 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 do
Okay.
do
Mm-hmm.
do 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 do.
Maybe this is where we should lay in some of our new fun features, right? Where we can
Yeah.
switch our logos and stuff. Okay. It's time for the Audible Week 8. Can you believe it? Don't blink. Week 8 waiver wire report here on the Audible, the footballguys.com podcast. It's Cecil Lammey, Sigmund Bloom, Dr. Jene Bramel to talk to you about all of the players that you need to pick up, that you need to add to your team as we continue through the fantasy football season. Before we get started, we're going to talk about those injured QBs. So, Dr. Jene, you're up. Okay, Bloom, this is a very healthy list of waiver wire quarterbacks. It's your upgrades, downgrades, and waiver wire report. It's available at footballguys.com. So let's cut the fat. We'll talk about guys wide netting this, because if Josh Allen or Cam Newton are out there, they're both 15 to 30%ers for you. Let's take in that next group as well, 12 to 25%. Drew Brees should be back in about a week. Jacoby Brissett, they're doing more, and Matthew Stafford healthy, and they're doing more. Those are your 12 to 25%ers. Let's start with these 5 this morning.
Yeah, it's almost like a streaming guide, and with quarterbacks. With Josh Allen, if he was dropped during his bye, you have a good schedule coming up here. It wasn't an overwhelming game against Miami, but he did enough, especially in the fourth quarter. He gets Philly this week. You have to like that against that secondary. Cam Newton's not going to be back this week, but you need to know that Carolina's schedule is going to include Tennessee, Atlanta, Washington, Atlanta again, Seattle, starting in week 9. Now, not consecutively. Green Bay, New Orleans, road games are mixed in there. But there is a favorable schedule here for Cam Newton. And this, again, is about getting the drop. We're not waiting for news that Cam Newton's about to return. And no, when Cam Newton has been healthy, he's always been a top 5 fantasy quarterback. And they say he's not going to return until he's healthy. Drew Brees might return this week against Arizona, and he would be a good play if he did. I would hope that the Saints take it easy. They've won every game with Teddy Bridgewater starting. When he comes back again, he's going to get Atlanta twice. He's going to get Tampa Bay. Jacoby Brissett is leading the NFL in pass touchdowns per game. Jacoby Brissett. Now, a lot of them have been inside the 5, but they all count the same. And wouldn't it make sense if those play calls are working, that you make those play calls going forward? So Jacoby Brissett this week against Denver on the road.
Maybe
Denver,
without Chris Harris.
Ooh, I like that. So another reason to like him. Matthew Stafford really came alive. He did everything he could for his team in this one. Gets the Giants this week. Looking at the weapons he has now, with Danny Amendola showing what he can do again, Marvin Jones showing what he can do again, and then Jared Goff. And even though, like Josh Allen, Goff didn't deliver the massive fantasy game we hoped against a weak opponent, it was still good. It's another weak opponent this week against Cincinnati. He's another one where you can pick and choose your spots going forward, as the Rams do have some weaker opponents. He's in that 10 to 20% tier.
Yeah, let's talk about the 7 to 15% guys, including some holding steadies. We've got the chat room fired up, reacting to us about Sam Darnold seeing ghosts. No, he's holding steady at 7 to 15%. So is Jimmy Garoppolo. It was the weather. It was the script, whatever. Gardner Minshew's a holding steady at 5 to 10%. But let's get back to the possible additions. Again, wide netting it. Derek Carr is not available in my league. He might be available in your league. 7 to 15% out there. Nick Foles, as he could return in the near future, 5 to 10%. Mason Rudolph out there. Ryan Tannehill winning games. Jameis Winston, 5 to 10%. This is the next section.
Yeah, these aren't the top streamers, but these are quarterbacks. Again, really what we're looking at, because the schedule and the good teams and bad teams have clarified themselves, the good defenses and bad defenses. They've clarified themselves in a way that I don't remember in previous years. So it makes it really easy to look at your schedule and say, well, I know I'm going to want to play this quarterback for these 3 weeks or these 4 weeks and avoid him in these 3 or 4 weeks. So you piece together a committee with some of these guys. And of course, we can start with Darnold, because, he's not on an exclusive list of quarterbacks that the Patriots have made look bad, but maybe he's the best because Ben Roethlisberger was playing with one arm. That being said, gets Jacksonville this week, and then a very easy schedule in the second half of the season that, we'll refer to a lot during this show. With Jimmy Garoppolo, again, it's picking your spots. He played in a quagmire and a slop fest, but He's going to get Arizona in weeks 9 and 11 with Seattle in between. He's going to get Baltimore. He's going to get Atlanta in week 15. So these are all games where you would start any quarterback basically against them. And Garoppolo, while he hasn't put up the big numbers because of the running game and the defense pulling this team forward, they'll need him in the second half of the season. Your fantasy team might need him. And then Carr, even without a number one receiver, he was able to put up big numbers against Green Bay. Should have had a rushing touchdown, or at least had a lot of chances to tack on more fantasy points in that game. Gets Houston this week, which would also be a good fantasy game. And if Oakland's defense gets them into more high-scoring games, then Carr is going to get favorable game scripts. 5 to 10%, guys. You got the Jacksonville combo. And see, this is kind of a Thursday night topic, but I mean,
that sounds like something at Waffle House. Just give me the Jacksonville combo.
Give me the Jacksonville combo, scattered, smothered, covered. Look, I don't know. See, I put them both at 5-10% because we can't really prognosticate this. If I had to guess, like, gun to my head, I'd say Foles is going to be the starter. Minshew's done a lot, and I like the Eric Stoner theory about keeping Foles in a mystery box for the trade value. But I would guess they're going to go back to the old, you don't lose your job because of injury, canard. And we look in the second half of the season, or even, Foles won't return before week 11 against Indy. But then there's Tennessee, Tampa, the Chargers, Oakland, and Atlanta. Whew. I mean, you want the Jacksonville quarterback if you're streaming quarterbacks, and maybe even as your playoff starter. So that's why both of these quarterbacks are listed. Mason Rudolph. Now, he's going to be the Steelers starter again. I wish it was Devlin Hodges, to be honest. And maybe it will be before the end of the season. But again, look ahead, folks. Look ahead at the schedule. The Steelers are going to get Miami this week, Indy, the Rams, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Arizona in week 14. So the Jets' pass defense didn't look that great. They get them in week 16. Rudolph has been modestly productive for fantasy. He can help your team. Ryan Tannehill can help your team. Ryan Tannehill's on the same page with Corey Davis, on the same page with A.J. Brown. And again, you look forward here. You see Tampa Bay this week, Kansas City in 2 weeks. You see Oakland, Houston on the schedule during the fantasy playoffs. Ryan Tannehill, see, this is the world we live in. Ryan Tannehill can help your fantasy team. And then there's Jameis Winston. And with Jameis Winston, it's like, if I knew Jameis Winston was going to be the starter for the rest of the year, he might be a 12 to 25% or 15 to 30% kind of guy. But at some point, do they pull the plug? At some point, now they don't have a Ryan Tannehill on the bench. They've got Ryan Griffin. But at some point, if Winston has another one of those games where he just vomits turnovers, then how long do you do this? How long do you stay with this? It was refreshing, honestly, to see Tennessee say, we know Tannehill might not be the answer, but Mariota is definitely not the answer. As long as Tampa doesn't have that clarity yet, Winston's going to have some value, and certainly even this week against Tennessee, he might be a good streamer. He also might throw 5 interceptions again.
Well, Tannehill DGAF, like, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between Mariota, who was scared to make a play. And, well, you and I are super deep dynasty nerds. Like, I've always wanted to see Ryan Griffin get a start.
Yeah.
He's one of our few Texas versus the Nation players remaining.
Yeah, I saw they were showing the Allen High School stadium before the Sunday night game, too. $60 million stadium that they can use now.
Yeah, it's not condemned anymore. 1%ers, Teddy Bridgewater, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Matt Moore, Mitchell Trubisky, Chase Daniel in very deep Q2 QB Superflex leagues, along with Ryan Finley. That change is going to happen, right? We're going to see Finley soon. Dwayne Haskins, who the hell knows when that change is going to happen.
Right.
And then there's Matt Schaub, as we know, as Dr. Gene talked about, Matt Ryan being banged up. So let's talk about these 1%ers.
And Cease, eventually I'm going to have to look to you to say, when do we start including Drew Lock on this list?
That I just wrote about it this morning for 104throughthevan.com. The 5 things the Broncos must do when Locke takes over. That will be after their bye, because he gets to practice this week. And then that's 2 weeks, but then they have a bye. So after their bye week, we will be talking about Drew Lock.
So there you go. 2 quarterback Superflex league, folks. A few weeks you have Drew Lock to kick around there. And by the way, Mitchell Trubisky, who was Mitch, and then he insisted we call him Mitchell. I think you really coined a new name for Mitchell Trubisky. Cease. It's Mitchell Trubisky chuckle, basically. You have to laugh after you say Mitchell Trubisky now. You have to laugh at the garbage time points he got, and as long as he remains the quarterback. And I suppose maybe Chase Dan. I don't know that the Bears are going to pull Trubisky this year. That's why I didn't include Chase Daniel. But this week against the Chargers, we saw Tannehill go for 300 against them. Maybe Trubisky, could be something as a streamer. Teddy Bridgewater is a streamer this week, and he'll be the Saints starting quarterback again. Maybe not this year, but for this week, I would expect him to start against Arizona. He's a streamer. Ryan Fitzpatrick is a streamer. I mean, the Steelers' defense has been rough, and they're coming out of the bye. Not so much for this week, but if Fitzpatrick remains starter, he did it against Buffalo. Nobody's been putting up fantasy points against Buffalo. Matt Moore, Green Bay could be a tough matchup. I'm not that convinced that Matt Moore is even going to support half of the offensive production that Patrick Mahomes did. But certainly you could do worse. No, actually, I do have Chase Daniel in there at 1%. Ryan Finley, we've talked about for the deep leagues, is when do the Bengals say, hey, we're going to take a quarterback in the top 5 next year. Let's see what we have in our 4th rounder. Dwayne Haskins is not happening yet this week, I don't think, on Thursday night, but it will happen eventually. And maybe you get one Matt Schaub start against Seattle.
Okay, that's the quarterback section. It's pretty healthy. Running back section, maybe not as much. But before we get to those, and Bloom, you got to watch the screen for this. Ooh, I love you, StreamYard, because we bring in Dr. Jene Bramel.
Ooh, there it is. We love you 5-ish.
Talk about the injured RBs in week 8. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Jene Bramel. Let's continue the conversation about these running backs. We've been talking about him plenty.
Yeah.
And if he's out there, you just got to double check. But obviously, Chase Edmonds, let's give him his own section. 50+%.
Yeah,
if he's out there, make it happen.
And rest in peace, Bushwick Bill, by the way. Got to mention that whenever we show that graphic. So, and the quarterbacks list being healthy, I think also is indicative. This just strikes me before I turn the page to running backs of just how few every week starting fantasy quarterbacks there are this year. Maybe like 6 or 8. And then there's maybe a few that we know are being rostered and not started every week. But really, there aren't a lot of quarterbacks. We go into the season thinking there's more than 12. Every team could have a starter plus one, half of them on their bench have a starter or maybe more. And now we look at every quarterback outside of the top 8 or 10 could be on the waiver wire or could be in someone's lineup. Chase Edmonds, we don't like to do victory laps here, but I will say that I have a good feeling, we were higher on Chase Edmonds 2 weeks ago than anybody else. And we were higher than Chase Edmonds last week than anybody else. And now the cat's out of the bag. Now, the Cardinals are working out Jay Ajayi, right? Spencer Ware. I don't know how much we should read into David Johnson's condition. In the sloppy conditions, he played one play. I don't know if he aggravated his injury or just showed them enough to say, let's be cautious with him. But what they saw, and see, this is how the NFL transpires, right? I mean, Chase Edmonds, this is something in fantasy football that I want to take a moment out to isolate and say, we can say this is the team's plan. We can say this is what the team intends to do and how the team intends to use these players, but the players have the last say. The players can do things that change the plan. And even this offense, honestly, it maybe hurts Kyler Murray's outlook a little bit that Chase Edmonds was so good and the running game was so good, especially scoring from outside the 20. Chase Edmonds looked fantastic. That low center of gravity, that great balance and speed. And here's your future starting running back for the Cardinals. Will it be this year? Will it be next year? I don't know. But you aren't going back to, I hope, I've been wrong before, assumption of rational coaching. Assumption of rational coaching is you don't go back to giving this guy 8 touches. You make him one of the centerpieces of your offense. So if he is still out there, if you're in one of those short bench leagues, this is, I think one of the first players, maybe the first truly legitimate player since week 2, and we could go back and say it should have been DJ Chark or something like that you empty the wallet for, because you saw it, I saw it, the Cardinals saw it. You can't unsee what Chase Edmonds did in week 7.
Yeah, season changer right there. So grab him if he's out there. Shouldn't be, but always make sure. Austin Eckler, 25 to 50%. I wonder what it'll be like after Melvin Gordon's dealt.
Yeah.
That's something to watch there. Royce Freeman, 15 to 30%, as they'll continue that running back by committee. They're not going to go away from it. Latavius Murray, 15 to 30% there as well. And let's throw in Ty Johnson as a 10 to 20%. Or Bloom, also, you got a couple holding steady guys. But the thing there with Johnson, with the Kerryon Johnson injury, this was the guy they got rid of CJ for so they could see more of. And not only did he take over and get a majority of those carries, but Bloom, also important to note that Ty Johnson was very involved when they were near pay dirt as well.
Yeah.
So it's not like they were taking him off the field when they're about to score a touchdown. No, Ty Johnson is their guy. So pick him up 10 to 20%.
Yeah, we don't know how long Carry-On's going to be out. We don't know if they're going to sign somebody. CJ Anderson's still out there, who was on the team, or somebody else, to give them some good work between the tackles. Ty Johnson wasn't especially impressive between the tackles when he went in for Carry-On Johnson, but it looks like Johnson's going to be out for multiple weeks. Austin Eckler, if he was dropped hastily, you see the Chargers return to their senses and say, oh, wait, this guy is still one of the best pieces of our passing game. And they might say this guy's a better running back right now than Melvin Gordon, although I don't know that any running back could succeed behind the Chargers line. They lost Forrest Lamp. They may get Russell Okung back this week. Royce Freeman, and see if you can speak on this with more authority than I can, but I like, for Freeman's fantasy stock, seeing him get that red zone touch, the end zone touch, goal to go touch, and converting it. He continues to be more involved as a receiver. These are all things, Cease, that assumption of rational coaching would say Philip Lindsay should be more involved as a receiver. Certainly, Philip Lindsay didn't do anything to lose his goal to go role, although Royce Freeman will be fine at it also. But Freeman, graduating from what the heck flex to flex this week. Latavius Murray, if he gets to start this week against Arizona, he's going to feast. He did everything they wanted him to do in that game. I mean, he fits the 2019 Saints, which is we're going to play good defense, we're going to be safe and conservative and take care of the ball on offense, and we're going to wear down the opponent on every play. And Latavius Murray did that. Even when Alvin Kamara comes back, it could be this week, could be week 10. I think you're going to see Murray get more work as he's showing that, no, he's not Mark Ingram, but he's still able to fill that role as effectively as Ingram was, to be honest. Maybe not quite as a receiver, but it isn't like Ingram was a big plus receiver out of the backfield. So we're looking at shifting value here, and we're trying to balance what we see and assuming the coaches are going to act rationally based on that, and knowing that coaches are going to be stubborn, and even when it's not going well, they may not listen to reality.
Well, listen to the reality of this. That guy's still out there.
Yeah.
Could make it happen.
Nice.
Somebody. We'll see. CJ's playing a lot of Twitch.
Who was the clutch bowler between the two of you, Cease, when it was going to the 10th frame and you knew that you needed to get a mark to get over the hump? Was it you or was it CJ who was the clutch bowler?
Oh, CJ. I was just there to drink and giggle. So that's it. No. Terrible bowler. But dear friend.
We got to go bowling sometime so you can see my Fred Flintstone style, by the way. I look like I want to kill the pins with the ball whenever I bowl.
Okay.
And I'm a wrong foot Louie.
Now I got to get you on the couch.
Yeah.
And ask why is that the case? Tariq Cohen, 5 to 10% in PPR leagues. Daryl Henderson there as well, 5 to 10%. Kareem Hunt, who is back practicing. They let him do that a couple of weeks before he can come back from his suspension. So 5 to 10% if he's out there. Mark Walton is a 5 to 10% as well.
And I should say, actually, I forgot the 20 to 40% in Holden Steady. So let me go back.
Yeah.
LaShawn McCoy, the only player that may actually be an upgrade, and certainly is not a clear downgrade with the Patrick Mahomes injury. Because McCoy looks good. He doesn't necessarily look like true prime McCoy because, well, that was one of the best running backs in the league. But he doesn't look like a running back who has one foot in the grave. He doesn't look like a running back that should have been a cap cut this year. He looks like a viable NFL running back. A lot of these running backs staying viable into their 30s. It makes sense for the Chiefs to go a little more conservative, especially because the defense woke up against Denver, although I guess that's not very difficult to do. Joe Flacco also seeing some ghosts in that game Thursday night. And then Devin Singletary, I want to see Singletary used in a more dynamic way. I want to see Singletary used more as a receiver like he was in week 1. He looked explosive in those first 2 weeks, not so much against Miami. We'll get more opportunities. Hopefully, again, rational coaching dictates, as great as Frank Gore is, you're not going to attack the Philly run defense. You're going to attack the pass defense. You're going to try to spread them out. You're going to try to go horizontal. We get down to the next tier here. Mark Walton, who you've been bringing up, Cease. Maybe you want to get him more involved in the passing game. The big speculative value here is if Kenyon Drake is traded. And this also
because
fits
Kalen Balash is a damn goal line back. Me off.
God. Really and truly. I mean, well, see, so at least we know that maybe we could score a touchdown in the NFL if Kalen Ballage can in back-to-back weeks. But if Drake gets traded, and the Lions were one of the teams reportedly interested in Drake before the carry-on Johnson injury. So that's another reason that Ty Johnson is not a player that you want to spend a lot of money on this week, because this is a potentially changing situation that could affect two teams, two sets of running back value. Tariq Cohen is a PPR pickup, and you see, it's like the Austin Hooper fade the Falcons offense. Whenever things are not going well for the pass offense for the Bears, usually means they're throwing a lot of passes. And it means Cohen's catching a lot of them. In PPR leagues, he could have some value if this is how it continues to go. Darrell Henderson was disappointing. The whole running game was disappointing for the Rams. But with Malcolm Brown banged up, Todd Gurley, we never know when the next malady is going to come up. Keep Darrell Henderson at the end of your bench. Keep Kareem Hunt at the end of your bench now. He looks like he's going to return of week 10, have a smaller role than he had in Kansas City. I'm not expecting Nick Chubb to get hurt, but there's some speculative value there.
Let's talk about the 1%ers, including Brandon Bolden, J.D. McKissick, Jeff Wilson. By the way, our guy in the chat room, DFS Donovan, says, what about Benny Snell?
Yeah, we haven't heard anything about that's a good one to remind us. Thank you, DFS Donovan. We haven't heard anything about James Conner and the injury. I think he was out and about during the bye week in a way that made me not worried about him, but certainly pay attention to those practice reports. Jalen Samuels, I think we're still looking for a few more weeks until he's back. And Benny Snell's a good 1%er anyway, because of the Miami matchup this week. I don't want to jinx the Steelers. Steelers haven't been playing down to the bad competition, Cease. They actually have been pushing the bad teams around when they face them.
Yeah, that's because they're not good anymore.
Wait a second. Because the Steelers aren't good, they can beat bad teams?
Yes, when they're good and they've got a bunch of hubris and they're like, we're the greatest, we just got to show up. And then they're like, oh, God, we got beat by the Bengals. Like, now they're like, they're scrappy and they're just not good. Sorry, Struggled. Bloom. I know you keep trying to have hope every week, but I'm like, damn it, no hope.
Well, struggle does build character. Brandon Bolden has been struggling to get on the field as a special teams ace. He looks good. He looks good as a receiver downfield. He looks like maybe if Sony Michel got a little banged up at the end of the game last night, I wouldn't be shocked if Michel gets hurt that they would turn to Bolden. Maybe a 1% isn't enough for him. Because if we just look at how he's playing and look at the quality of opportunity in this offense, he should be worth more. J.D. McKissick looks explosive. Every time he touches the ball, he looks like the kind of player, a Tariq Cohen kind of player, not as shifty as Cohen, but very explosive in a straight line acceleration. He's going to get some more opportunity no matter who the Lions sign. And then Jeff Wilson, and you start to connect the dots here, right? Because it is the 49ers backfield. And, okay, Tevin Coleman's healthy, but they're giving him 20 carries a game. How long is that going to last? Matt Breida, every 3 or 4 games, has to at least get checked out. How long is that going to last? Raheem Mostert's banged up right now. Jeff Wilson, it won't shock me, Cease, if in 2 or 3 weeks we're talking about Jeff Wilson as a 20 to 40% guy because he's the healthiest back on a team with a good defense and a good running game.
Woo! Here we go. Yeah, it's another one as we continue on in the Week 8 waiver wire show. Well, it's time to go to the very healthy. My voice is cracking. Good thing you'll do all the talking in this one. But, because the wide receiver section is very, very thick. But before we get there, it's time for Dr. Jene Bramel to join us again to tell us about those injured wide receivers. Dr. Jene, take it away. Okay, Bloom, let's get in this list. And it is healthy.
Let's dig in.
Upgrades, downgrades, waiver wire report available at footballguys.com. 25 to 50% for Smoke, John Brown, Marvin Jones, 20 to 40%, Kenny Stills, 20 to 40%, Marcus Valdes-Scantling, 20 to 40%, and D.D. Westbrook, 20 to 40%. Again, wide netting this.
Yeah, and John Brown might have been dropped after his bye, and in short bench leagues, he hadn't been putting up the big games. He could have had a massive game last week. You need Josh Allen to dial in that deep ball a little better. John Brown getting open at will, still one of the most underrated wide receivers in the league. Gets Philly this week. Good schedule coming up for him. Marvin Jones, second 4-touchdown game of his career. I forget the list, Cease. I want to say Jerry Rice is on that list. There might only be 1 or 2 other receivers that have ever had 2 4-touchdown games. 2 of those touchdowns were on Xavier Rhodes. 2 against the Giants this week. He should keep it going. Kenny Stills, now with Will Fuller having what sounds like a severe hamstring that's going to keep him out for multiple weeks. Kenny Stills, your designated deep receiver for Deshaun Watson. Good. Marcus Valdes-Scantling, Get Gary and Conley traded. I mean, I hope that's not an insult to Valdez-Scantling that Valdez-Scantling comes in with a bad wheel and he still just runs around Conley for like a 70-yard touchdown. That's it. You're traded. Maybe to the Texans could be a good thing. Someone's going to look foolish at the end of that trade, either the Texans or the Raiders. But Valdez-Scantling made Conley look foolish. And counterintuitively, maybe when Adams comes back, Devontae Adams, that's good for Valdez-Scantling. And Aaron Rodgers feeling his oats. I guess Max Crosby never should have done that discount double check because he showed who the true champ was, and he can help Valdez-Scantling's stock, help your fantasy team, make you a champ. But D.D. Westbrook, number one receiver for this team last week. And going back, so a lot of these things are going to be connected up to the schedule. Jacksonville, with that tremendous schedule against the pass coming up weeks 12 to 16. Westbrook will certainly benefit from that.
Definitely, and to that I would say double true. A.J. Brown, Corey Davis, both of them 15 to 30%ers. Let's get in Golden Tate at 10 to 25% there as well. By the way, you have two holding steadies at 15 to 30%, including getting louder with Crowder, Jamison Crowder, and then DK Metcalf.
So it'll be rinse repeat on Jets receivers. It was the Patriots, and it's the Jags this week. But then the schedule gets very, very good, and you expect this offense to come alive. With DK Metcalf, kind of an embarrassing fumble. The Seahawks are a good organization to help him move past that. They're still going to need him. Certainly against Atlanta this week. Metcalf's going to bounce back. If someone's spite drops him or just saying, where's the beef? You're going to see it this week. A.J. Brown and Corey Davis. It's just as simple as Ryan Tannehill. And you're seeing chemistry, and you're seeing Tannehill delivering the ball on time, Tannehill delivering the ball accurately. Tampa Bay this week, if these guys were dropped and hadn't been picked up because, we're waiting to see. Well, we saw, and again, Tennessee has some good matchups this week against Tampa, first and foremost. Oh, and Gold Tape. Sorry, yes, Gold Tape real quick. Sorry. It's Detroit this week, revenge game, and he has that high floor. Whenever Sterling Shepard comes back, it's going to come down a little bit. That's why he's a tier below these guys.
Philip Dorsett is at 10 to 20% now, and then let's get in Zach Pascal. Kiki Cutie bumped up that list with Will Fuller's injury at 7 to 15%. Bloom, I'm just looking over it right now. Yeah. Would you bump up Mohamed Sanu? Let's get him in the conversation because he's with the Patriots now. I know you have him a little bit later on.
Sure.
So maybe I spoiled it, but it's in this little kind of mini section.
Right, because we started with Dorsett.
Here, right.
So how do we work this out logically, right? I mean, I have Dorsett as an upgrade, and I think the question with the addition of Sanu, and this is kind of a Thursday night topic, but it also affects our waiver wire claims that we're putting in as we speak, Ceased. We know that Bill Belichick loves his Rutgers guys. We know that Bill Belichick prefers to take a pick and turn it into an already proven NFL receiver instead of a draft receiver.
Because they can't draft receivers.
Sorry,
N'Keal Harry.
Yeah, right. I mean, Malcolm Mitchell, but his knee fell apart. So who loses? If we're looking at roles, Sanu kind of overlaps with Edelman. He kind of overlaps with Josh Gordon. Maybe Josh Gordon's injury is worse than we thought. Jacoby Myers is an obvious loser, even though Jacoby Myers has been playing really well. That's the funny thing is Myers has been playing well enough that they don't really need Sanu. What's going to happen is he's in the first close game they have, whether it's Baltimore or Kansas City or whoever, with the game on the line, Sanu's going to throw a touchdown pass. That's how it's going to go down. That's why they got Sanu to throw. It's because Philly special beat them, and now it's going to be Rutgers special or Gunnar Olszewski on the other side or something like that. So I just have Sanu as a 1%er because even with Tom Brady having a high volume game against the Jets defense, which isn't exactly a murderer's row defense, where was the pick to click among fantasy? I mean, even Dorsett with that long touchdown was only 3 for 46 and a touchdown. So I'm saying, and Dorsett is still, so I don't worry about Dorsett with Sanu because their roles don't overlap at all.
Right.
Sanu's the one vertical receiver that, I mean, even Gordon's not really a vertical receiver anymore. So I'm okay with Sanu, with Dorsett. With Sanu, it's just skepticism. How is this offense? I think Edelman will stay in our lineups, and then who else? Who else is going to be reliable? And that includes Sanu. But I'm putting him in the 1%ers because you pick him up and you see what happens. And maybe because they gave up a second-round pick for him, the Falcons were going to release Sanu after the season. They maybe even thought about releasing him before the season. So there you go.
Well, the Patriots were sniffing around Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah,
I mean, that's done now. We'll see where E goes. Philadelphia, San Francisco, Minnesota, maybe. But yeah, so they were sniffing around.
Yeah.
But you Sanu or Sanders, like, what the hell's the price tag on Sanders? Because it'd be a lot
Right.
less than a second round pick.
It would be less, but it also would cost more. And he's not a Rutgers guy, Cease. You know. So anyway, marching through these other guys, Zach Pascal. I encourage folks to look into the story of Zach Pascal because as we travel through these football circles, there are certain players. Andrew Hawkins comes to mind that really, truly had to overcome to get where they got, and had to take advantage of small windows they had just to hang around the league, just to get into the league, just to have a role, do whatever job the team gives you. That's been Zach Pascal. And now he's becoming a productive player, career day, still sharing snaps with Deion Kane, still sharing snaps with Chester Rogers. You wonder if that changes going forward, but he's been so productive. And with or without Chris Harris, we'll have a good matchup this week. You have to stream him in there. Also, Kiki Cutie, full-time slot receiver, got a ton of targets last year. I don't know if that's going to happen this year, but I stashed my bench to see what happens while Will Fuller's out. And then the 5 to 10% before we move on to the bottom of the barrel. Geronimo got to play. And really what we're looking at here is Aaron Rodgers, sleeping giant, waking up, making all of the Packers targets a lot more intriguing to carry on your roster going forward.
Well, intriguing to carry your roster with Deontay Johnson at 3 to 5%. Devontae Parker's had a touchdown in each of the last 3 games. He's a 3 to 5%er. There's Preston Williams at a 1%er if he's out there. Danny Amendola, Jerron Brown, Alex Erickson, Adam Humphries, BC Johnson. He's busy.
Yeah.
Jake Kummerow, Alan Lazard, Mohamed Sanu. You even have a holding steady of Demaryius Thomas at 1%.
Because of the Jets schedule, again, folks. And since I've been referring to it so much, I'll go ahead and remind us. After Jacksonville, the Jets will get Miami, the Giants, Washington, Oakland, Cincinnati, Miami, Baltimore, and then Pittsburgh looming in week 16. But after next week, and even maybe next week against Jacksonville, your Jets targets, and also one more to come in the tight end section. 3 to 5%er Deontay Johnson. And the question here is, will defenses continue to say, you have to beat us with somebody other than Juju Smith-Schuster? It reminds me, I should have put Vance McDonald in the tight ends in case he was dropped. So if that's the case, Deontay Johnson gets those deep targets, and we'll see about Mason Rudolph. But certainly against Miami this week, Deontay Johnson's going to be a wide receiver 3 flex candidate. And then Devontae Parker. And as you said, Cece, scored for the last 3 weeks. It's so funny. What does it take for Devontae Parker to finally start to avoid injury, play consistently, just playing on the worst NFL team like in the last 40 years? What are we looking at? What was the year, Cece? The $76? The one that John McKay said, I'm all for their execution. What do you think your team's execution? I think it was 76. I'm all for it. I mean, we're looking at Miami as being the worst team since that team. They're keeping a running tabulation of point differential when they look at it. John McKay, maybe the most quotable NFL coach of all time. I think probably Mike Leach. And I feel like Mike Leach and John McKay would get along well. Preston Williams had a fumble, but again, with Miami, you're still getting the targets. As long as Ryan Fitzpatrick is the quarterback, I'm more interested in these guys. Danny Amendola every month or so will have a big game. Maybe we'll have 2 back-to-back against the Giants. Jerron Brown continuing to get targets. Russell Wilson targets against Atlanta this week. So these 1%ers are guys you might pick up and throw to your lineup because of the bye week crunch, because of emergency. Alex Erickson had basically the whole pass offense for 1/2 in this one against the Jags. This week faces the Rams. I don't think they're going to use Jalen Ramsey on Alex Erickson. Adam Humphries, that safety valve, slot receiver. Ryan Tannehill breathing life into all of these players. Again, facing Tampa Bay this week. A revenge game. Ola BC Johnson got a touchdown. Also, this is a woke pass offense now. Thursday night against Washington. Jake Kummerow. And Jake Kummerow is another one who made Gary and Conley look bad in that game. So he some of the blood's on his hands for that trade. Again, he's one of Aaron Rodgers' targets. And on one hand, in Lazard and Kummerow, here's the take, right? Valdez-Scantling's back. Allison's back. They're less attractive week to week unless Aaron Rodgers is going to account for 6 touchdowns every week. But on the other hand, the 3 wide receivers ahead of them are all hurt to some extent right now. It wouldn't be shocking at some point this year, week 12, 13, something like that. One of these guys is starting. and hopefully starting if you're a Packers fan and if you're just a fan of good quarterback play with Aaron Rodgers playing like he did in week 7. And then we touched on Mohamed Sanu. And I understand, and I may look back. The question here is, do they make him? Because we saw Bill O'Brien trade for Duke Johnson, and immediately he made him wait a second. So we'll see what Belichick does with Mohamed Sanu. But again, I think it's his downfield blocking and his passing.
By the way, on the Packers receivers tip, it doesn't take an injury for those two, Lazard and Kumaro specifically. Allison drops passes.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus Valdes-Scantling's been in Rodgers' doghouse. All it takes is an opportunity. So deeper leagues, go ahead and hold on to them. Let's talk about tight ends and the injured tight ends. So Dr. Jene Bramel joins us once again on the show because he can't be stopped. Dr. Jene, let's talk about those injured tight ends here in week 8. Okay, Bloom, let's get to your list. And your list of tight ends includes Gerald Everett right at the top, 15 to 30%. Dallas Goedert, 10 to 20%. Jimmy Graham, he's going to catch touchdowns like that, 10 to 20% until Jay Sternberger's back.
Yeah.
But, hey, there's the top of your list.
Gerald Everett got 10 targets in that game. Gerald Everett had a touchdown. Gerald Everett, even when the receivers kind of overachieved for fantasy, could have done even more, playing really well against Cincinnati this week. Gerald Everett's tight end 1. Jimmy Graham. And what's interesting about Jimmy Graham is, at least in terms of finding space on the field in his routes, he's moved better than he did last year. Just catching the ball. Well, he did a better job catching the ball. Everyone did for the Packers in week 7. Some confidence there. Certainly against Kansas City, you're going to go back to Jimmy Graham. And Dallas Goedert, don't love the victory laps on this show. But I will say this, at least for 2 weeks, Dallas Goedert has had value without a Zach Ertz injury. So will that continue against Buffalo this week? We'll see. But you have to be excited about what Dallas Goedert is doing. He's growing up in his second year. And if I had remembered to list Vance McDonald, which I'll go back and rectify in a second, he would probably be in this tier as that safe. The Steelers, safe is the word on offense. They don't need a safe word because they're playing it safe the whole time. The Vance McDonald fits into their MO on offense right now.
The safe word is glory. Because we don't, again, the victory laps, people break their arms, patting themselves on the back. That's not what we do. It's glory to the players, glory to the game. And when we see a good player like Dallas Goedert, when we see Chase Edmonds, that's, again, plenty of hits, plenty of misses. Let's talk about it all, and let's be as accurate as we possibly can be. But it's always glory to the players, glory to the game. Let's get some more glory going. And the next section of Eric Ebron, 5 to 10%. And there's Kyle Rudolph as a 3 to 5%er. By the way, holding steady, Chris Herndon, who should be back. Jet schedule.
Right.
Chris Herndon should be back this week, we think.
We hope. And the point is that schedule is holding on to Herndon. If you don't have a tight end you can count on right now. Eric Ebron, again, I'll say it. I said it during the recap show. He's play of his career, his NFL career. It was so good, even the ref didn't believe it at first. It's Eric Ebron. Saw the play. And then said, was that Hilton? No, it's Ebron. It must not be a catch. It was a catch. It was a touchdown. And he's putting the drops from earlier this year behind him. Gets Denver this week. So, Eric, the safe word is beignet. Lots of beignet fest was just there were so many things going on in the last 2 weeks. I think on one day, there was the barbecue and blues fest. There was the Crew of Boo parade. We went down to Boo Carré in the French market. There's always an adventure waiting for you in New Orleans if you just walk out your front door, which has been hard for me sometimes in my life. So that's why I'm here. Why I'm here right now, actually, is talk waiver wire tight ends. It's we are turning this into on the couch, aren't we? Kyle Rudolph in the 3 to 5% before we get to the 1%ers. Caught a touchdown, has had his 2 best weeks of the season so far. And again, as the Vikings become all of a sudden a balanced offense, taking advantage of Kirk Cousins' arm and the offensive line, giving him time to throw. Now Kyle Rudolph has a pulse in fantasy leagues.
Well, I'm so glad, and this sounds really weird because I don't like his game, but you just recognize the role. And again, with Ryan Fitzpatrick in, I'm glad that you have Mike Gesicki here. Now, it's just a 1%er. We're not going to go crazy, but no, there is a role. 5, 6, 7 targets, 4 for 40, maybe a touchdown. There's something there. You're desperate at tight end. Mike Gesicki's out there. Foster Moreau is out there as well. Darren Waller, wow. Magnifique. It's not just a game against the Broncos. It's a lot more than that. But Foster Moreau getting mixed in as well, even near pay dirt. Irv Smith getting mixed in some more. 1%. Jonu Smith. We'll see if Delaney Walker's traded. The Seahawks are hot and heavy for a tight end. Walker might be on their radar, so everyone just keep that little nugget of information and know that Jonu Smith's like a younger version of Delaney Walker. And then there's Biggity Ben Watson, who I feel like we talk about every week, but hey, 1%er, throw it up.
He's on the team. He's off the team. He's having passes go off his face mask. He's catching passes. He has a chance at a touchdown in any given week. So that's why Ben Watson is there. 1%er, Mike Gesicki game is coming around. And as we said, as long as Ryan Fitzpatrick is in, we like him. Mentioned Irv Smith because the Vikings pass offense spreading their wings right now. And Irv Smith, dare I say, is a better target than Kyle Rudolph if there's rational coaching here. Johnny Smith. Also, Delaney Walker a little banged up. Remember, he came in questionable with that ankle, missed practice on Friday. Didn't really do much. Missed a lot of that game last week against the Chargers. So Johnny Smith making some plays there. And then Foster Moreau with the problems at wide receiver, and it makes sense for them to remain a 2 tight end offense. Moreau very athletic, now coming along fast in his rookie year, facing Houston this week. And Cecil gives me an opportunity to say, did you see Joe Burrow, LSU quarterback? Yes, LSU has a quarterback. Actually, the betting favorite in the Heisman bets as of right now. An LSU quarterback, Heisman. What world did I wake up in this morning?
A world where weak-armed quarterbacks can make plays. Like we've got a big Joe Burrow conversation saved for the off season, because there's never an off season for talking Broncos. Wait, what? For anything for talking about football. So yeah, we'll get into that. And Bloom, again, I hate to squash hope, but it's nice the Bayou Bengals actually have a quarterback, but being a good college quarterback is very much different from being a good NFL quarterback. So
don't say that down here. You're going to get they'll put you like on the pig roast on the spit for saying something like that. They're excited. He's
the greatest ever. Yeah, of course. Every college football fan.
National champion. They're going to beat the Crimson Tide, right?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, college football fans, like every time, like, you don't like Connor Cook, and then I look at their avatar, it's like Michigan State. It's like, come on, dude, come on, please, college football fans, stop being so crazy. It is time to enjoy something. The work week has just begun. We're recording this on Tuesday morning. I don't care if you're working out. I don't care if you're at the cubicle, driving the car to work, wherever you're at, enjoying and listening to this show. First off, we appreciate you. Thank you guys for listening very much so on iTunes, Spotify, etc. But this is the cathartic time because fantasy football is a wicked mistress, and there are players that just let you down, so you get to let them down. With the simple clickety click of your finger, you can let them go. So everyone out there, no matter what you're doing, everyone say it with me. It is time to cue the chuck. Boom, where's some of your week 8 shut 'em downs?
Yeah, and in a really intriguing week for pickups, not a lot of automatic drops this week. Quarterback with Andy Dalton, the string has snapped really, keeping him on our roster. Who knows how long AJ Green is going to be out there. Probably the most prominent drops here, Damian Williams. Whew. So everybody who said Damian Williams just doesn't have the track record to deserve a 3rd-round pick, no matter how good the Kansas City backfield is, you win. Damian Williams is a drop now. And what are you waiting for? I mean, we're going to see Patrick Mahomes maybe week 11, maybe week 13, but Damian Williams wasn't doing enough anyway, especially with LaShawn McCoy being the better running back. And then even Darrell Williams. We want to keep our shares of this backfield. I won't be surprised if Darrell Williams is a fantasy factor for the fantasy playoffs, but the opportunity you miss carrying him through those non-Mahomes weeks could be rough. Demarcus Robinson, Byron Pringle, same story. Now, Mark Mecole Hardman, not in this segment, maybe coming to another segment. AJ Green. See, this is the one I want to hear you weigh in on, because, man, if you ever told me other short of his leg falling off that AJ Green would be in a shut him down segment, I'd say, shut your mouth. But AJ Green, and before I pass it to you, I'll say Trey Burton, if you're thinking some good stuff's coming out of the bye. No. Noah Fant, treat him the way that he treats the ball. And
he treats it like a volleyball.
Set spike.
Right.
But I'm feeling like, what are we waiting around for with AJ Green at this point. We don't know when he's going to come back. It doesn't sound like he's going to get traded. This Bengals offense, by the time he comes back, could be Ryan Finley throwing the ball to him. So I'm thinking AJ Green is a shut him down. What say you, Cease?
I'm a little more stubborn on that type of talent. And again, it depends on the size of your bench.
Sure.
Right? Shallow bench, of course. You probably never picked him up in the first place. It seems like he's a couple weeks away, Bloom. Again, that's been very mysterious. So, and with Finley coming back, maybe that's not a bad thing because the kid doesn't know, like, don't make that throw.
Right.
Some aspirational throws from a young QB. So I'm usually the one to squash hope on this show, but maybe I'll play the other role. Like,
right.
No, deeper leagues.
He'll do just enough to help them win the Tua Bowl against Miami. I think it's in week 14.
Right. What are you
already
doing?
making T-shirts for it?
What are you doing, Miami? What are you doing? All right. I never know what she's doing back there. There's another side of the coin, and it is where you just can't let go. And that's for me, AJ Green, right? There's a segue into that. So, there's just some of the players that you love. You care too much. Mm-hmm. You care too deeply. So everyone play the air drums and sing it along with Five-ish, dude. I mean, is anybody better than our guy Five-ish? So sing along with us, not as we sing Islands in the Stream, but as we hold on. Bloom, who are some of those week 8 hold-ons?
See, you could win a Kenny Rogers lookalike contest. Kenny Rogers couldn't win a Kenny Rogers lookalike contest now. But in that picture, you could. Islands in the Stream. It's all the 80s, the one-hit wonders of the 80s and 90s, part of our life forever. Some players, hopefully, that aren't just one-hit wonders. See how I did that, Cease? You're going to probably hold on to Carson Wentz. Schedule's still rough. Buffalo this week. I think he has New England coming up. Then the schedule will ease up. He might not be. And don't drop Patrick Mahomes, okay? Folks already know that. I just want to make sure. Don't do that. Even if your team is 1-6 and you don't think you're going to the playoffs, hold on to Kerryon Johnson too. Hold on to Kenyon Drake because of the trade deadline. If he gets traded to the Lions, he immediately becomes the most valuable Lions receiver for this upcoming week, at least. Hold on to Joe Mixon. So here's what I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. Don't hold on to AJ Green. With Joe Mixon, we did see him come on in December with Jeff Driscoll as the quarterback. I'm going to say hold on to David Montgomery. Just because when Matt Nagy says, I'm not an idiot, we need to run the ball more. And it may well result in 22 carries for 41 yards against the Chargers, but it's the Chargers. This could be your David Montgomery breakout game. I would not be dropping him, even though nothing good could grow in that running game. Don't drop Sammy Watkins. So look, here's the problem with dropping Watkins and Hardman. If you make the playoffs, even against, I think Kansas City and New England is week 13, so you're not going to have to face them in the fantasy playoffs. Week 14. So, okay, maybe we'll see for that game. Denver's defense is looking scary. Chicago's defense isn't looking as scary. You want those key Patrick Mahomes targets. Do not drop these players. I might not drop Dante Pettis. The game was played in a quagmire. Pettis played over 90% of the snaps. Again, San Francisco has some easier matchups after Carolina this week. I know it's been a frustrating ride with him. I probably would also hold on to Jared Cook because of the good schedule coming up, although we need some more information about his injury. And again, with Delaney Walker, CC mentioned the possibility of a trade. And even if he stays on Tennessee, if he does come back, Ryan Tannehill breathing life into that. A pass offense, hopefully we're breathing life into your fantasy teams or your morning, and Five-ish always breathing life into us. Does he get residuals now that there's a video element to this?
Should. It absolutely should. Hold on to Emmanuel Sanders for when he gets traded.
Oh, yeah.
Because we are 7 days away from the NFL trade deadline, and Howie Roseman just can't help himself. You brought up Dante Pettis, Bloom. I was like, I wonder if you'd be saying this if Sanders was with the 49ers.
Ooh, maybe not. Maybe not.
Things, they are changing. That's for sure. So, as always, keep it locked right here. Bloom, this is so much fun. So much fun to be with our community. And when we literally wake up with the Audible, but we see all of our guys in the chat room, they're like, what's up, fam? What's up, fam? It's like, it's our football guys family, man. Love it.
It is. In the off-season season, we should just do something where, like, on Tuesday mornings, we just get the newspaper and say, what's in the Denver Post today? what's in the New Orleans Advocate? I can't say the Times-Picayune anymore, sadly.
There's no more Times-Picayune?
They tore down the building. They even demolished the clock tower. It was an icon of New Orleans. The newspaper had been around since like the 1830s or 1840s. So, yeah. But we got the uplifting note is here. See, okay, fine, not a newspaper. We could just look at what takeout restaurants have put menus in our door. You know, like, oh, there's some egg foo young. That's what do you like to order at Chinese takeout? You know, just spending time with you, spending time with our great Football Guys family. It's my favorite thing.
It is simply fantastic. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Share the videos, everything. Super close to 10,000, Bloom. Super 9 times. Like, yeah, super close to 10,000. Help us get to that point. We certainly appreciate each and every one of you for doing just that. He's Sigmund Bloom. You follow him on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. The show is at the Audible. There's at Jene Bramel. And then, of course, at Cecil Lammey. We are the Frosty fam, as Dave Gladstone says in the chat room. So thank you guys for watching. Thanks for checking out footballguys.com. I'm Cecil Lammey for the great Dr. Jene Bramel and the fantastic Sigmund Bloom. Stay tuned and stay frosty.